As you all are aware, it's Friday and it's funky schedule. Yes. So we have longer in here than any other class of the day. Yes. Now, I generally like to stay pretty close on pace in each of my classes. I teach this 4 times a day. So whatever conversation you were just having, you may be able to pick up here in a little while when I'm done. Okay? Sound good? All right. So yesterday we got into kind of this weird discussion on drugs and alcohol, right? Yeah. And I think we worked our way pretty well through that. I don't know if we came to any conclusions on whether we should legalize certain things or not, but we certainly thought about it a little bit. So yeah, kind of today recapping some of the 18th Amendment, 19th Amendment. Does anybody know what the 19th Amendment is off the top of their head? Ladies? Ladies, yes, women's suffrage, okay? And then we're going to talk a little bit about Warren G. Harding. That's pretty light today. When we get back on Tuesday, we will get into the weeds of what historians refer to as one of the, if not the most corrupt administrations in American history, would be the Harding administration, okay? So we'll get into that hardcore on Tuesday. Guys, we will not have a test next week, but the following week we should have our first test, okay? That being said, there's a homework assignment due tonight at 11:59. Now, I graded all the assignments that were turned in up until 8 o'clock this morning. Now, some of the assignments, you might have not liked your score. So guys, there's 4 questions. They're worth 5 points each. So if you give me one sentence as an answer, think you're going to get 5 points for that? No, you're not, okay? So some of the questions are 2-part questions. Try and answer the whole question. And give me some good feedback. I mean, some of these I had like 500 words on. Okay, some of the answers, assignments that got turned back in, some of them were less than 100 words. So, I mean, if you didn't like your score, if I've already graded it and you want to resubmit something better, I'll grade it. You got till midnight. Okay? So, if I did take points off, I generally tell you why. Now, if I just write number 4, your answer was vague, that means you didn't give me very much at all. Okay? Does that make sense? So, not too late to do that. Cash, have you done it? You're going to be busy the next few hours.
I know, I'm going to do it 7 hours.
Okay. Okay. All right, good. Good? All right. So, yeah. I don't think I talked about this yesterday, guys. So, in order to enforce this, the federal government hired 1,520 federal agents. So this would be like 1,500 FBI agents just to focus on prohibition. Okay, now the 18th Amendment says that it is illegal to manufacture, to consume, to transport, or to sell alcoholic beverages. Those 4 things. Produce, sell, transport, or consume. Now, they did do a cutout for the Catholic Church. I don't know if you guys were aware of this. Priests were allowed to have real wine for Mass. Okay. For medical purposes, alcohol was available as well. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but a lot of our early medicines in this country contained a lot of alcohol. I mean, when I was growing up, kids would like buy NyQuil and drink it to get drunk. It's like NyQuil, it's like cough medicine, had a lot of alcohol. I think they've taken that out. Don't get any idea. Okay? Don't be drinking NyQuil. Okay. Now, as far as transporting alcohol, Guys, if you were to walk from our northwestern border all the way across the border with Canada, down around the Atlantic coast, down around the Gulf Coast, along the Rio Grande, all the way to the West Coast and back up, that would be 18,000 miles. Okay? So you're going to defend 18,000 miles with 1,500 agents? I don't think so. We have way more agents on our borders now, and we can't stop the flow of drugs and fentanyl across our border. Okay? So guys, there is going to be a demand for alcohol. People are still going to want it, which means there's a lot of money to be made. And guess what you're not paying when you buy alcohol? Taxes. Okay? It's all profit. A lot of profit. Okay? Because a lot of it's watered down, homemade. Some of it's brought in across the border, Canada and Mexico, into our port cities. Hard to keep it out. Okay? So it's hard to enforce. And think about this. You think there were any cops that after a long day of work come home and drink a beer while it was illegal? What about the politicians? Think the politicians quit drinking? No, they didn't. Okay. Now, so there's disrespect for the law. It's like speed limits. Some of you have no respect for the speed limits. Am I right? I don't. I'm almost always over the speed limit. Now, if I'm in a neighborhood, guys, I'm not going to drive 35 miles an hour through a neighborhood. That's just stupid and dangerous. And you don't want blood on your hands, right? You don't want some kid to run out in front of you and kill him. So when you're in a neighborhood, come on, be smart. But when you're on the highway, you don't have kids running across the highway. You know what I mean? Now, I probably shouldn't say this on video. I'm a defensive driver. So if I'm driving faster than everybody else on the highway, the only people I have to worry about are the people in front of me, not behind me. If you're a slow driver, like grandma, then you got to worry about people behind you. You know what I mean? Those are the dangerous drivers, slow. Because you don't realize how fast you're coming up on somebody when they're driving slow. You know, that happens quickly. I remember driving in Montana about 15 years ago when the speed limit was 80. It's 80 there now. It's 80 in Wyoming. I was there this summer. But if somebody's driving 50 and you're driving 80, you don't realize how fast you're coming up on somebody. That's dangerous. Okay. They're building a new highway in Texas that are connecting two of the big, maybe Dallas and Austin. It's like a corridor, and I think they're going to make it 80. It's so nice. When you're out in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming, you can drive 85 and not worry about getting pulled over. Because, you know, you get 5, 6, 7 miles over the speed limit. 11. Yeah, so it is nice when you're traveling great distances. So this becomes the black market, right? The black market of alcohol. And any of you guys take movies in history? You took it last year?
Yeah, I did last year.
So remember the movie Untouchables? You watched that at the beginning of the year?
Yeah.
Yeah, great movie, right? I mean, bloody. But it's about Al Capone in Chicago, okay? Highly recommend that movie if you guys, Untouchables. It's got good cast character. Kevin Costner's in it. The old 007's in it. A lot, Andy Garcia. There's a lot of great actors in it. And De Niro plays Capone, Robert De Niro. So anyhow, Chicago became a war zone. I want you to think about it like this. You guys hear about the violence of the Mexican cartels? That's a drug war, man. It's a drug war. Who controls the drug trade in Mexico? Makes billions of dollars. Billions. Okay, so if you start trying to cut in on my business, cartels, these warring, dude, it's brutal. And it was like that in Chicago, man. In New York, you had turf. So like the Polish people controlled part of New York. The Jews controlled another part of New York. The Italians, right? And so if you tried to sell alcohol and make money on their turf, you can't call the Federal Trade Commission and say, hey, this guy's cheating unfair business practices. Okay? No, you take it into your own hands. That became very violent. I mean, they seriously thought about calling in the army to Chicago. Kansas City, guys, the mob was very strong in Kansas City. Okay? So these people made hundreds of millions of dollars. Right? And everybody was drinking, man. You can go to like 1927, New York Times, New Year's Eve. It's a New Year's Eve party, man, which is the biggest party in America every year is New Year's Eve. You had 500 different speakeasies or illegal bars advertising in the New York Times for parties on New Year's Eve. They're taking out ads in the newspaper. Everybody's drinking. How many of those speakeasies were raided that night? Not very many. Okay, the mob pays off the cops. The mob pays off the cops, just like they do in Mexico. Right? It's corruption, man. So this making things illegal like this led to a lot of problems. Okay? And it's geographic as well. So in your big cities, you have those issues. In the South, where people are making it in their backyard or in the bathtub or out on the farm out here in the Midwest. Okay? Well, transporting it or running liquor, like running drugs, became a thing. And so the runners would soup up their cars really fast to be able to run from the cops. My car's faster than the cop car. Okay? So you could run from them. You guys seen the Dukes of Hazzard? Ever heard the Dukes of Hazzard? Okay. Great show from the 1970s and 80s. They did a movie too. Very redneckish guy. But guys, when Prohibition ends in 1933, you got all these guys with fast cars and nobody to run from. So they built dirt tracks and they started racing. And $1 billion industry was born. Called what? NASCAR. We got any NASCAR fans in here? 0 hours. 5 people raised their hands. Like they all had favorite drivers. Like most of you don't even know one of the drivers' names. Right? Dale Earnhardt Jr. Right? Kenny Hamlin. We used to have a guy from El Dorado. He just retired. Clint Boyer. You guys heard that name, Clint Boyer? Yeah, Kansas driver. And we have a female Kansas driver that's like the minor leagues. So yeah, the big race is on Sunday. The minor league race on Saturday. She actually goes to school with my daughter. She's an engineering student at Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology. Her dad was a race car driver. The students at Rose-Hulman helped build the car. And she races with the college name on it. Right? And she finished 5th at Daytona. In the B race, not the A race. Pretty impressive. Her name's Mandy Chick. She's a chick. She's Mandy Chick. Okay? And she's a good driver. Pretty cool story that you didn't know before I told you. Okay, I got another story. Since we have all these NASCAR fans in here and you want to know more about NASCAR, right? Right? Okay. Did I mention my buddy Van before? The one that was a pothead that got a full ride to Mississippi State and flunked out after one semester? My buddy Van, huge NASCAR fan. Like I grew up in the South, okay? NASCAR's huge. I don't like it. I mean, I watched the first 5 laps and the last 5 laps, Daytona 500, something like that. Any guys been to Kansas Speedway up there and seen a race? It didn't turn you into a fan? Was it fun? Yeah. I went to Talladega once. It's pretty cool. I mean, they're just racing around in a circle, But anyhow, Van, huge NASCAR. He's adopted. My buddy Van, okay? He had a 68 Cougar. And Van and a couple of my other buddies had fast cars. And they like street race. It's back in the 80s, okay? And so we go out in the middle of nowhere, not street racing in like town, okay, outside of town. And I never got in a car with one of my buddies that was racing. Now I go down the finish line and tell you who won. You know what I mean? But I ain't, no, I'm not a risk taker. But anyhow, Van, after he flunks out at Mississippi State, he starts looking for his birth mom, okay? And he finds her. So when she was 15, she got pregnant. And like we want people to do, if they're not going to keep it, to give it up for adoption instead of having an abortion. She did that. And he had a really good mom and dad that adopted him. He had an adopted brother as well. But he found his mom. Huge NASCAR fan. Where's his mom live? His mom lives in Daytona Beach, where the Daytona 500 is. And her last name is French. 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 Last name is French. Her husband that she married is the founder of NASCAR. Like, this is a rich family in Daytona that got his mom married, owned NASCAR. And he had a stepbrother, okay, that raced cars. So Van, after he flunked out of Mississippi State, he moved to Daytona Beach and is reconnected with his mom and his family. Isn't that a good story? No? Okay, I think it's a good story. So,
Now he's filthy rich.
well, he's a geologist, drives a Porsche, and I'll see him third week of October. I'll go down there. When we all turn 50, my high school graduating buddies, the fellas, it's like 9 of us, fellas, okay? So when Van's birthday is October 19th, mine's the 20th. So we all met in Nolens for our 50th, and like 7 of the 9 came, fellas. I think we might get all 9 this year. So we can go down, rent get a VRBO near a golf course, play some nice golf courses down in Orlando. So I'll miss that Friday. So I'll get a flight out of Wichita about 4 o'clock on Thursday, go straight from here to the airport. I'll be back Sunday night in October. Good? I'll see Van. Okay. I hope he's still around. Van's a big guy. Big guy. Big guy. Unhealthy. I'm worried about it. Yeah. Okay. So, one more thing. So if you like NASCAR, that's a good byproduct of Prohibition, okay? Here's another good byproduct for some of you. The mafia. They could have, when they legalized liquor, gone into more illicit drugs and done drug trade that way. But they didn't. So you got to give them credit for that. So a lot of them, what did they do with all that millions and hundreds of millions of dollars that they made? Well, they used it for seed money for a little paradise in the desert of Nevada called Las Vegas. So the money for the first casinos that went up and the money to buy off the politicians to legalize gambling in Nevada came from the mob. And they're still around. Vegas. Now, one of the most popular TV shows in the 90s and 2000s was a show called, why can't I remember it? It'll come back to me. I'll bring it back up. But it's about modern day mob. So today, the mob in New York City they have turf wars over trash collection. Trash collection in New York, there's a lot of trash. 8 million people, a lot of trash. So if you control the trash, you're making a lot of money because you're charging people $50 a month to take their trash. That's a lot of money. So it's the modern mob Frank Gall, for that show. Anybody know what I'm talking about?
You said Frank Gallagher?
No. Galdafini's the actor. Dang it. Hey, real quick, what's the name of that HBO TV show about the mob in the 90s, 2000s? It's like one of the most famous shows on. The mob. Sopranos, thank you. The Sopranos. See, he knew. Berger knew. The Sopranos. Okay, I mean, like, this was the #1 show on TV. Was on HBO. So HBO, like, got a whole bunch of subscribers because of that show. Okay? And it ran for, like, Sopranos. You heard of this? Yeah. Yeah, it's about the modern mob. Okay? It's weird because it's like, it's about their families and stuff. So, they got all family drama and all that. So it's pretty good. Anyhow, okay. So, Vegas, if you like gambling, have you guys done some of the sports gambling now it's legal in Kansas? Anybody into that? You losing money? Yeah. I don't get it. All right. You guys like gambling? I mean, some of you are 18. You go down to Oklahoma when you turn 18, right? Why do you throw away hard-earned money? I don't know. I don't do it. Yeah. There's a reason those places stay in business. Because they win more than you do. Is it? Yeah. Because you're taking other people's money? Not the house's money. Yeah, with your buddies. You play with your buddies. Yeah. Yeah. What's up, Dan? How you doing? My fourth out.
Yeah, I know.
You used to be in here?
Yeah, I just be here.
You can come anytime you want. You hear the same thing over again.
All right.
All right. See you later. Okay. 19th Amendment. All right. Hey, when we get to government class next semester, you'll learn all 27. But you'll have a few under your belt. This is this book. 19th Amendment, ladies. Right? Now, this is something women have been fighting for decades. The war helped. So if you look back at American history, you see great periods of social change after major wars. And with that social change, you're going to get some amendments here. Okay. When so many men went into the military, women kind of filled that role. And so President Wilson came out in support of this. He said, I see nothing wrong with giving half the population the right to vote. And if you've never thought about it in those terms, literally half the American population didn't have the right to vote. Okay? So, ladies, you're in. The first presidential election you're going to get the vote in, ladies, is 1920. Okay, so that's going to be, women are going to help elect Warren G. Harding. Okay, that'll be the first president they tend to elect. Now, while we're talking, let's just talk. Modern women in modern politics. Guys, we have more women in Congress than we've ever had. Right now. We have our first ever female vice president. Hillary Clinton in 2016 was the first female to be at the top of one of the two major party tickets. Okay? So in politics, women have come a long way. Now, there are a lot fewer women than men in Congress. Okay? There's 435 members of the House of Representatives, and there's 100 senators. Okay? Women comprise less than 25%. But it's more than it's ever been. Okay. Now, when we look back historically, how do women vote in elections? Do they vote more Republican or more Democrat? And for most of American history, up until the last 30 years or so, it was hard to differentiate how women voted, Republican or Democrat. There was no, like, they didn't lean one way or the other in a big way. Like, for instance, African Americans vote heavily Democrat. Okay? White men vote pretty strongly Republican. Today, the general rule for women is this: single women, non-married women, vote heavily Democratic. Married women vote slightly more Republican. So overall, women vote slightly more Democratic. If that makes sense. Okay. So they do play a huge role in our political process. Women do. They're more than half the population. So depending on who shows up to vote, could be even more than that. So let's start looking at the impact of women here with the election of Warren G. Harding. Okay, so one more, please. Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you up. All right. Harding, he was a newspaper guy. He started his own newspaper. That newspaper was successful. Then he got into politics, ran for the state legislature. So he served in the Ohio Senate, became the lieutenant governor, and went on to become governor of Ohio. Okay. Then he decided to run for president. Now, most of our presidents don't have a ton of experience. Okay. For instance, Donald Trump had never been elected to any office. Dog catcher, mayor, state legislature, nothing. Never ran for office. Okay. Has that ever happened before? Where you had a person elected that had never held an office before? Yes, it has happened before. George Washington. Dwight Eisenhower, who was a World War II general, never was elected to anything until he ran for president. Okay, so you've had that before. You ever had a businessman do that? Not necessarily, no. Trump was kind of the first. Okay. And if you're watching the Republican side of this, Vivek Ramaswamy has never been elected to anything. He's a businessman. Okay. And he's doing fairly well in the polls. But we like to elect governors. Because if you're the governor of a state like Kansas, you're the chief executive of that state, and you have a state legislature with two parties in it, Republicans and Democrats, that you have to work with. So it's a microcosm of the U.S. government, the state government, yes? So we like to elect governors because they have that kind of experience. A lot of our presidents have very little foreign policy experience. Okay? Take a guy like Ronald Reagan. Reagan was the governor of California. He had no foreign policy experience, but when he left office after 8 years, many would say was one of the best foreign policy presidents we ever had. Okay, so there's some on-the-job learning here. Okay, Harding doesn't have a lot of experience. Okay, but he's got some other things going for him. He's friendly. He's likable. He's silver-haired and dignified. He looks like a president. And who's voting now? Oh, yes, women are voting. Wait a second, Mr. Ebright. Did you just give me some male chauvinist stuff right here? Are you saying, Mr. Ebright, that women will decide who to vote on based on how somebody looks? Yeah, men do the same thing. Now, I don't give a crap what they look like. And hopefully you don't either. You're listening to what comes out of their mouth, not what it looks like coming out of their mouth or how it sounds coming out of their mouth. But a lot of people vote that way. I like this guy. I don't like this guy. I like her. I don't like her. Coach Powell, who used to coach basketball here, he's head coach at Garden Plain. He was watching my class, just observing my class second hour. And he told me, he said, he showed the debate, the Republican debate to his class. And he said, Nikki Haley is the one woman on the stage, okay? And most people thought she had a pretty good debate. Like she did well. I thought she did really well. He said the girls in her class, in his class, they all hated her. They thought she was some kind of feminist. They're like, I don't like her. No, I don't like her. The girls were being like, he was surprised. I'm surprised by that because I thought she did good. I thought girls would be like, hey, she's doing good in that debate with all those men. Okay? But you know what they didn't like? They thought she played the woman card. You know? Like, and she did a little bit. She said something like, something about how women are better at, certain things. I'll have to find the quote for you. And I don't think it's feminist. I think there's probably some truth to what she said. But anyhow, I thought that was interesting. And I've done that before too, dude. I've shown debates in here, and the comments from students, like, and that guy's funny looking, he's weird, that kind of stuff. Yeah, people vote. People like that vote, and so, and I'm not saying this is why Harding won, but it didn't hurt him. Okay. Now, if you can see from this picture, he's throwing out the first pitch of Major League Baseball season. Now, you guys, I know we don't probably have a lot of baseball fans in here. Contreras likes baseball. I know that. But, guys, baseball is part of American history. Okay, for the longest time, they called baseball America's pastime. Now, the number one sport in the United States is the NFL. That is the most watched sport in the United States. And it's really not even close. But the major leagues, guys, they play 162 games. That means the Kansas City Royals have 81 home games. Okay? Think about how many fans come in and out of that stadium over 81 games. The Chiefs, is it 18 game schedule now? 16. They moved to 17? I forget. I think they added a game or two. Okay. But so they're maybe playing 8 or 9 home games a year. Major League Baseball, it's an 81 game. It's a long season. Okay. NBA plays 82 games a year. All right. Okay. Yeah. So 40 plus home games. Okay. But baseball was America's pastime. And William McKinley, who was president in 1900, started this tradition where the president threw out the first pitch of the season, first home game, for the team in Washington. There used to be a team in Washington, D.C., and then it went away. And then about 15 years ago, the Washington Nationals were formed in D.C. So the closest home park to D.C., while there was no team in D.C., was Baltimore. The Baltimore Orioles were in first place in the AL East right now, which is news in and of itself, because usually the Orioles suck. Okay? They're in first place. Okay? The Yankees are in last place, which is news. The Red Sox are in fourth place, which is news. The Tampa Bay Rays and the Baltimore Orioles, they're at the top. Usually not like that. Okay? Baseball is capitalism. The NFL is socialism. Did you know that? You want me to explain? Sports lovers. NFL has what's called revenue sharing. Green Bay Packers. You've all heard of Green Bay Packers? Anybody have any idea where Green Bay is in Wisconsin? It's a small town. They're a small market. The Kansas City Royals, is a small town. And it's versus New York Mets, Chicago Cubs, you know, these big LA, you know what I mean? It's a small market. So in the NFL, the big teams like the Giants and the Bears, the ones that make lots of money, the Cowboys, they have to share revenue with the Green Bay Packers of the world. It's socialism. Okay? In Major League Baseball, the New York Yankees, the Boston Red Sox have the highest payroll. They can spend as much money as they want. Now, they have to pay what's called a luxury tax if they go over a certain amount. But the Oakland A's and the Kansas City Royals, they don't have that kind of money. So there's no revenue sharing in baseball. So for the Royals to win the World Series in 2015, and I'm not a Royals fan, I'm a White Sox fan, and they're in the same division. But in 2015, if you weren't on that bandwagon with the Royals, man, that was fun. I don't even like the Royals. But for them to win the World Series is a huge feat. With one of the smallest payrolls in the league. That means you got a good organization. You're drafting players and you're coaching them up and you're getting them all at the whole clock's got to strike right at the same time. Okay? So it's impressive when you see Minnesota Twins win the World Series. Small market, man. Royals, Tampa Bay Rays. Nobody goes to their games. The Oakland A's, there's like 5,000 people in the stands. Oakland A's, they're going to move to Vegas. Pretty sure they're going to move to Vegas. And I'll hop on a cheap flight to Vegas to go watch some Major League Baseball. I won't gamble. Maybe. Like $100, that's it. I'm going to spend. You know? But I was in the airport, man. In Vegas Airport, that's the closest I've been to the Strip is the airport. And it's cool. If you ever go to the Vegas airport, you can see the Strip, all the lights. I mean, it's cool. I've never been to Vegas. I got no real plans to go to Vegas. Any of you guys been to Vegas? You been there? Did you have a good time? What happens in Vegas? That's right. Now, but dude, it's cool. I mean, like when you're flying out there, it's all desert. It's all desert. And then all of a sudden you start seeing some green. It's like crazy. It's like in the middle of the desert. It's weird. Okay? But I was in the airport and the Bears were playing that weekend in Vegas. Now, all the fans, man, just, you know, it's easy because cheap flights to Vegas. I don't know if you know that. Like, you can fly to Vegas for $100 because they want your money down there. So they pay the airliners so that they have cheap flights to their city. Did you know that? Yeah. It's smart. Cheap flights, man. So, cheap hotels. Get them in, gamble, 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 drink, gamble, drink, gamble. Prostitution's legal too, so you can do that if you want to. It's crazy over there. Sin City, right? Sin City, Vegas. Think the model. All right, see, I brought that back. All right, so he's throwing out the first pitch. So almost every president, from William McKinley forward throughout the first pitch of the season, this picture's taken at a game of the Washington Senators, which was the name of the team. Contreras, it was the Senators. Okay, they left and went to Montreal. They were the Expos. Okay, and then came back with the Nationals. Okay? So I'm going to show you a video of pitchers throwing out the first pitch, or presidents throwing out the first pitch. Now, most of them are going to throw it from the stands. In the old days, all the players would gather around. It's like at a wedding when the bride throws the bouquet. and all the girls try and catch it. Next, the person who catches, the next one's gonna get married, right? That's what they say. I don't know if you've ever been to a wedding where the groom does the garter thing. Is that a thing in the Catholic Church? You've seen that? Yeah. Yeah. Same thing. Guy who catches is the next one to get married. Which I don't, want or not. I mean, I might just, when I was younger, just kind of stay to the back. Yeah. Anyhow, all the players will gather around. Guys, this is a keepsake. Like if you catch the ball from the president, he signed it. You catch it, you're one of the players. Like you're giving that to your grandson. You know what I mean? Like it's worth a lot of money. Okay, so they would all gather around and throw out the first pitch. It was only later that the president would go out on the mound and throw out the first pitch. Now, this one thing that makes me mad about Trump, he never did this. And Biden hadn't done it either. They freaking destroyed this tradition. And I've seen Trump play catch. He knows how to throw a baseball. I don't know about Biden, but Obama, he never played baseball, as you will see. A lot of these guys never played baseball, as you will see. Okay? Now, there's two that you'll see on here. George W. Bush and his father, George Herbert Walker Bush, who both played at Yale. Now, the dad, the older one, was a lefty. And what you'll also notice is that several of our former presidents are left-handed. Okay? So, Obama's was kind of embarrassing. Okay? The best first pitch is going to be the second one in the video, okay, that I've ever seen. It was George W. Bush just 3 days after 9/11. So it's like September 14th, 2001. Okay, guys, Major League Baseball and everything else shut down after 9/11. You know what I mean? Like, and then we decided, look, we are not gonna, let them win. We're gonna go back to life. And so Yankee Stadium, just 3 days after the 9/11 attacks and the towers came down, the Yankees are gonna play, and the President of the United States, who were still under threat, like we don't know what's going on, comes out. Now there's a bulletproof vest under that jacket. Okay, he's wearing an NYPD jacket because all the firefighters that died in the attack and so forth. And he comes out, and that crowd goes nuts, and he throws a freaking strike. I mean, it's a bullet right there. Boom. Okay. This is Derek Jeter. Okay, now I'm not a Yankees fan, but I'm a Derek Jeter fan. He played shortstop for the Yankees during this time. He's in the Hall of Fame already. They call him the captain. Okay. He told Bush, because they put out, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but they put out a rubber, the pitching rubber, like 10 feet in front of the one that's 60 feet away from home plate, about 10 feet in front of it so he can throw it from a shorter distance. And the president's warming up, playing catch underneath. Jeter gives President Bush crap. He goes, if you throw that first pitch from that other rubber, we're never going to let you live it down. So he went to the top of the mound and threw out the first pitch. Okay. So I'm going to end today's class with about 2 minutes of first pitches. Okay. And I've turned off this video because YouTube will get me for copyright.